it's Erin with Snowberry Design Co. Welcome back to my channel. Today I decided to mix things up just a little bit. I wanted to share the exact paint colors that are on my palette, what brands they are, and I want to share with you which ones are my favorites. I also want to talk about the palette that I use for my paints. The link to my Amazon store to check out all of these paint colors and this palette are in my description box. If this feels super overwhelming and you don't know where to get started, I also have a link to my favorite supplies if you're just getting started and you want to just buy a few of the paints. Now first let me talk about this palette. I struggled to find a palette that I really loved, and this one's awesome because it doesn't stain. So when I rinse it off, it looks like it's brand new again, which is almost unheard of. You really should check this one out. It's my absolute favorite. It folds up, so if I want to travel with my paints, it's really easy to do that. The very first color on my palette is Winsor & Newton Cadmium Red. This is a great true red with a little bit of a blue undertone, so it looks a little bit more pink. I am going through and painting the first box a little bit darker and the second one lighter by adding a little bit more water to my paint. Winsor & Newton Scarlet Lake is very similar to Cadmium Red, but it has a little bit more of a yellow undertone, so it pulls a little bit more orange. I use Cadmium Red and Scarlet Lake almost interchangeably, and it really just comes down to personal preference if you're going to choose one over the other. Next up is Holbein Shell Pink. I thought I would use this one way more when I bought it. It acts almost like a gouache paint because it's a little bit more opaque. I have to add a lot of water to get the same transparency as I get with the other watercolor paints. It's a really nice pink color, but I honestly prefer to mix my own light pink rather than use this one straight out of the tube. Next is Holbein Jaune Brilliant No. 2. It's a peach color that's really similar to Shell Pink in that it's a little bit more opaque. Next up is Brilliant Orange by Holbein. This one is a really great true orange color. It mixes really well with the other colors, and I mix it a lot with pink to get a coral for my flowers. This pretty yellow is Quinacridone Gold, also by Holbein. I love this color, especially mixed with greens. It's a gorgeous golden yellow. I can't really explain the consistency of this paint. It's very different from the other ones. And it's almost brown when you use it with a lot of paint and a little bit of water, and a really pretty soft yellow when you mix it with a lot of water. Next is Winsor & Newton Turner's Yellow. This is a really nice, almost opaque yellow. It tends to be a little bit softer than Quinacridone Gold, especially when I mix it with a lot of water. So when I'm doing any soft florals that need yellow, I reach for this color. Hooker's Green by Winsor & Newton is the perfect true green. I rarely use it just on its own, but I do use it as the base of my greens often, and I'll mix a little bit of Cadmium Red and Quinacridone Gold to make it a nice natural green. Prussian Blue is up next. This one's Winsor & Newton. This is a really nice true blue. Like Hooker's Green, I'll use it as a base or add it to my green to make it a little bit darker. The next blue is Vertider Blue by Holbein. This one's great. It's almost a periwinkle color, but leans just a little bit more blue, which I love. I always reach for this blue when I'm painting hydrangeas. The next blue is Antwerp Blue by Winsor & Newton. This one is really similar to Prussian Blue, but it's just a little bit deeper and has more of a red undertone. I don't think I need both of these blues. I might just go with the Prussian Blue over Antwerp just because it's a little bit brighter. Next up is Payne's Gray by Winsor & Newton. I love this color. It's really more of a dark navy blue than a gray, and I use this one mixed with green to get a really deep green. Next is Winsor & Newton Perylene Violet. It's a really pretty plum color, and it looks really good mixed with Cadmium Red to get a nice maroon or burgundy color. This is Winsor & Newton Potter's Pink. It's that really pretty mauve color that's so popular right now. I love this color because of its versatility. It looks gorgeous paired with softer colors in a spring floral painting, or it can be used with darker, richer colors and it goes really well with those fall tones. Winsor & Newton Opera Rose is probably the #1 color I reach for. I was really intimidated by it when I first got it because it's such a bright, almost neon pink, but when it's mixed with a tiny bit of red or with a lot of water, you just get the most gorgeous soft pink. I jumped to the Schmincke Ruby Red so that you could see it next to similar bright pinks. Ruby Red is a lot like Opera Rose without the neon look. I still reach for Opera Rose over Ruby Red just because I like to start with brighter colors and tone them down by mixing and adding more water. M. Graham Quinacridone Rose is right in between Cadmium Red and Ruby Red. It looks great on its own or mixed with a little bit of orange for a pretty coral color. Winsor & Newton Van Dyke Brown is the perfect true brown. This is one I would definitely include if you're just getting started. I don't normally use it just on its own. I'll mix it with Hooker's Green to get a nice hunter or forest green, or I'll mix it with a little bit of Prussian Blue and Cadmium Red to get a deep plum. Schmincke Green Earth is a really transparent, soft green. I tend to use this one more with softer color palettes, even though I think it would look great in any floral arrangement just because it's so transparent and such a pretty neutral green color. Daniel Smith English Red is one that I was really surprised by. It doesn't look like a color that you might use a lot, but I really use it all the time. I love it next to gold and yellow tones, and I use it all the time when I'm painting roses. I love this color and I am so glad I got it. Daniel Smith Perylene Scarlet is another gorgeous color that I'm a little bit obsessed with. It's the perfect deep scarlet with a pink undertone, so it looks really nice with the other pinks. I'll use this one a lot when I want to darken the centers of my flowers. Daniel Smith Alizarin Crimson is a lot like Scarlet Lake, but just a little bit darker. I find myself using this color more than Scarlet Lake, and I think that's partly because it's still a new color for me, and newer colors are always really fun to use. M. Graham Scarlet Purel is pretty close to Brilliant Orange, but a little bit more red. I think it's a beautiful shade of red-orange, and seeing it next to these reds just makes me want to use it in a fall floral bouquet. Daniel Smith Isowindolin Yellow is such a rich yellow-orange. I use this one in the centers of my flowers a lot because it is so rich and it's a bolder yellow. Daniel Smith Undersea Green looks really great on its own and looks awesome mixed with Quinacridone Gold. I use those two mixed together all the time. Daniel Smith Perylene Green is my go-to green right now. I love how deep it is. It almost has a jade look when I add a lot of water to it. It looks really pretty mixed with Prussian Blue, so you get that dark turquoise, which is so gorgeous. Daniel Smith Ultramarine Blue is the blue version of Opera Rose. It's so bright, it's almost neon. I love to mix and play with this color because it's got that little bit of a purple tone to it, and it's really fun to use. Quinacridone Purple by Daniel Smith is another more blue-violet and one of my newer favorites. Next up is Winsor & Newton Rose Doré. I really like this one too. It's a little bit more transparent than my other colors, but it has such a soft look to it, and it looks really great with almost any other color. M. Graham Cobalt Teal is a new color for me and one I haven't really played a lot with yet, but the pigment is really rich and I love the green undertones in it. I know I'll be able to make a really pretty mint or seafoam color with this as my base. Daniel Smith Ivory Black is next. I was so against buying a black watercolor paint for a really long time, and I finally decided to try it out. And so far I love it. I really love it mixed with Perylene Scarlet to get a really, really deep maroon color. Daniel Smith Raw Umber Violet is another go-to brown for me. I use this one a lot mixed with a dark green to paint the details on my leaves. Daniel Smith Lemon Yellow is hiding on my palette. and it looks a little bit more dull than it actually is. It's actually a really bright yellow, and it almost looks green because it's so bright. As you can see, I use a lot of different brands of paint, and honestly, they are all great. If I had to pick just one, it would be Daniel Smith, even though Winsor & Newton is a really close second. But I love the richness of the colors with Daniel Smith, and they re-wet really easily. Daniel Smith also has a sampler you can buy to test out all the colors you buy, which is awesome. That's how I picked out all of my Daniel Smith paints, and I'm in love with every single one of them. I'll have a link to the sampler down in my description box below if you'd like to test out all the colors for yourself. There's over 200 of them, and they were really fun to try out. There's a little glob of paint for every color and enough to paint a few paintings with each one. Honestly, the hardest part is narrowing down which one to buy because there are so many amazing colors. I hope you liked this video. If you found it helpful at all, hit the thumbs up button. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I post a new floral watercolor video every week. Thanks again for watching. Bye!